Right, able to see the screen, right? Hello. Right, all right. So today we'll see the JMS, and as well as if we complete that remaining JMS part, then after that we are moving into that security, right? So that part we'll able to see security. So JMS generally we have completed yesterday basic configurations. Today we'll see the advanced configuration actually. We're just moving into that advanced actually. Yesterday I told you, right? So if the subscriber is unavailable, generally those messages which are going to be stored into the persistent message. By default, all the WebLogic server JMS generally which is non-persistent in the sense which cannot able to persist messages anywhere. We need to make it as persistent by using the durable subscription. So what is a durable subscription? Generally, durable subscription means durable subscribers, and subscription means durable subscribers register durable subscriptions to guarantee message delivery even if the subscribers are inactive, right? So generally how it would be possible actually by configuring how it works actually. If the subscriber client is active, generally messages are going to be delivered. Example, publisher who are publishing the messages, and subscriber who can subscribe the messages. See, through the topic which we are going to be sending the messages which are available under the JMS. If the client is active, generally messages are going to be delivered normally. If client is not active, based on the client register ID which is going to be associated with the persistent store, under the persistent store which are going to be stores here. So either it may be a file store or database store. In this way it is going to be works. What is a persistent store? How we can able to configure actually? Persistent store is nothing but it is a physical repository for storing subsystem data such as persistent JMS messages. It can be either a JDBC or it can be a file store actually. There are two types of persistent stores. Let's see how you can able to configure the persistent stores actually. Go to the WebLogic console. So expand the services node, click on the persistent store. So see, there are file store and JDBC store. Click on file store, provide the file store and select the target and click on OK. So similarly you can create the JDBC store also. Then click expand the messaging node, click on the JMS, click on JMS server. See the persistent store by default none. You can select whatever you configure, which means we are attaching to the JMS server. In this way you can able to configure the persistent store by guarantee of delivering the messages actually. Under that it is going to be stored. Either it may be file store or JDBC store. So this is about we are in the now how the JMS is going to be handle the failures. We are just moving into that advanced level JMS clustering, JMS advanced level JMS. What my question is, what while the message is going to be sending either queue or topic which is going to be fails, what about my message? So how it would be handled in the cluster if any one of the server is going to be fails, which is redirected to the hello, any doubt? Right. So generally if any one of the server is going to be fails, generally which is redirected to the another server instance in the cluster. Similarly, any one of the data source which is going to be fails, which is redirected to the another data source in the data source. Like that, even in JMS also you can able to handle like this. How it can able to handle the failures in the and as well as load balancing in the JMS. If queue fails, generally applications will not have any place to send its messages to. So generally it is called tightly coupled in the sense. So to implement or to overcome such kind of issues, we may have the concept called JMS level clustering. In other words, which we may have called the failover in the JMS. Whenever the queue is going to be fails in the cluster, which is failover into the another server, another JVM in the cluster, that is called service migration. See, failover and as well as the load balancing, which is implemented based on the distributed destinations actually. So failover first we'll able to see, later we'll able to move to the distributed destinations. In this way it is going to be handled the failovers in the JMS level cluster. Let's see how you can able to implement the failover in the JMS. You can implement failover in the JMS by using the singleton service and with the help of the node manager generally. What is the singleton service generally? Singleton service is nothing but it is a service that are configured to migrate automatically within the cluster. In the sense, whenever the server is going to be fails, automatically which recreates on the another running server instance in the cluster regarding the JMS services. That is what singleton service. Generally, how you can able to configure the singleton service, the process of recreating the singleton service is called service migration or old server migration. So that part we'll able to see before we are configuring. Let's we see that migration. What is migration? What is server migration? And what is service migration? So migration is nothing but moving a clustered WebLogic server instances or subsystem component running on the clustered instance. So in this sense, whenever it is going to be fails, moving clustered objects from one server instances upon failure into the running server instance. That is called migration. Server migration moving in the sense moving entire server instance from one physical machine to another physical machine upon failure. That is called server migration. In other words, whole server migration. And service migration means only affected services which we can able to move or which we can able to migrate from failed server instances to running server instance is called service migration. So this migration could be do either it may be a automatic or either it may be a manually. If node manager is configured to monitor the singleton service, then it's generally those migration would be a automatic migration. So failed services which are going to be recreated on the other JVM in the cluster. And if there is no node manager, then WebLogic server administrator needs to be manually start the JVM failed on the another running server or another JVM which is running in the cluster. And that is called what automatic migration and manual migration. Let's we see how the queue is going to be implement that failover. Go to the WebLogic console, expand the environment node, click on the clusters, click on the migratable targets. See, these are all the migratable targets actually. Click on here. What is the what is the default migration actually? Manually, automatic migration and manually. Whenever you configure the node manager, generally you can select automatic migration. That is about how you are going to be setting about the migration. To configure automatically, generally you just click on the cluster, configuring the singleton service, click on new. No, no, it is not related. It is not related to other servers, which is related to the same server only. What we are doing that failover manually or automatically. Automatically means with the help of the singleton service, and you can able to configure, right? And provide the class name and click on next and select the preferred targets and as well as click on finish. So click on the creator singleton service, click on migration. See these you can able to select and click on save button. Which server is failed automatically which redirected to the another server instances. In this way you can able to configure the failover in the JMS. So how you can able to handle the load balancing in the JMS generally. Load balancing which is enable or which is able to handle by using the JMS level clustering, that is nothing but what distributed destinations. What is distributed queue and what is its architecture actually? Distributed queue which is nothing but what which contains the set of queues for the multiple JMS clients which are defined the point to point asynchronous point to point communication. So logically it looks like single only, but distributed queue internally it may have the n number of queues. See, whenever the sender wants to publish the produce the messages which comes to the here distributed queue. So generally all the messages which keep under the queue, which is managed by the queue manager, and which sends those messages over the receiver over the network to the one and only one application called only one receiver at a time. So generally, whenever this queue is going to be failed, queue internally it may have the n number of queues. It may be redirected to the another nearest queue in the distributed queue and continuing the process. Does not able to get any error, which is failure to the another JVM and continuing the process. This is regarding the distributed queue. Next, we'll see what is the distributed topic generally. C, which defines the multiple topics for the which defines the set of topics for the multiple JMS clients, which defines the asynchronous publish to subscriber communication model. Whenever publisher wants to send message, which will send to that distribution topic here, which keeps all the messages into the topic in the queue, which is managed by the topic manager, which send those messages to the more than one subscriber at the same time. So in this way, that is going to be configuring. It is going to be describing about the distributed topic. Let's we see how you can able to handle the load balancing in the JMS generally. So generally, load balancing is nothing but what you are routing the connection factory. In the sense connection, we are going to be load balancing. We'll route the request to the nearest JMS server that holds a member of distributed queue. So in the sense, distributed queue generally internally which contains the n number of queues. In this way, you can able to handle the load balancing. So in the distributed queue, which is bound to the normal, instead of normal queue, this time which bounds to the distributed queue or distributed topic, which is just like normal queue only. If any one of the queue or topic which fails, normally which is fail out to the nearest queue or topic and continues the process. In this way, it is going to be load balancing. Then now you can able to configure that load balancing generally. So let's we see that load balancing distributed configurations. Let's go to over there. Click on the JMS servers. Click on created JMS server. Sorry, click on JMS module. Click on created JMS module. So click on new. You can configure the distributed queue. Click on next. Provide the distributed queue name. And click on next. Select the target and click on finish button. Similarly, you can configure the distributed topic also. And click on next and click on finish button. In this way, you can able to configure the distributed queue and distributed topic. So next what I need to do. So what is the sub deployment and how you are going to be, this is about how you are going to be handling the failover and load balancing at the JMS level. Then what is the sub deployment, why you are going to be configuring, and what is the purpose of the sub deployment? Very, very important interview question. The sub deployment is nothing but it is a mechanism by which JMS model resources such as queue, topic and connection factory, which are not set a target to the cluster actually. By using the sub deployment, these are grouped and targeted to the server resources such as JMS server or server instances or store and forward agents or cluster. So by that what will happen generally, all the standalone queues and topics in the sub deployment targeted to the specific JMS servers. And what will happen, it is going to be reducing or to avoid the extra network traffic. And another advantage such as configuration would be if the targeted JMS servers needs to be migrated to the another WebLogic server instance, then the connection factory and its all the connections will also be migrated along with the JMS server destinations. Those are the two advantages which we have to configuring the sub deployment. Let's see how you can able to configure the sub deployment and attaching the sub deployment to the queue or topic. So click on the JMS module, click on sub deployments, click on new, provide the sub deployment name, demo sub, and click on next. Select the target as JMS server, click on finish button. Next, click on the JMS module, click on created JMS module, click on a queue, click on sub deployment, select the sub deployment and click on finish button. Similarly like that, you can select the, you can attach the for a topic also. In this way, you can able to configure about the sub deployments. See here. So for remaining actually, which we may have the default sub deployment for queue or topic which does not have the init deployment. These are all the standalone queues and topics. That's the reason we are going to be configured and set target to the queue or topic. This is about the sub deployments generally. Let's we see the what is the foreign server. So how we can able to handle in the JDBC about the foreign JDA provider. Similarly like this foreign server also. It defines the foreign messaging provider for remote WebLogic server instance that is not part of the current domain. So how you can able to configure the foreign server generally. So you just go to the admin console, click on JMS module, click on created JMS module, click on new, select the foreign server, click on next, provide the foreign server name, click on next and click on finish button. The moment you click on the foreign server name, see you can configure the destinations like a queue, a topic and as well as connection factor and sub deployment. In this way, you can able to access the remote WebLogic server JMS, which is not part of the current domain. Let's we see what is the store and forward agents, another important interview question. See, whenever the messages which are going to be coming from the client, which arise from the different locations actually, how it would be, how many messages it would be keep into the queue. There is a limit, right? After it has going to be filled the queue, where it has going to be stores all the messages. There is a problem again. If you does not store somewhere generally, all the messages which are going to be missed actually. For that reason, store and forward agents which came actually. Store and forward agents which are responsible for storing and forwarding the messages between the local and remote receiving endpoints. In the sense, whenever queue fills, it has going to be stored under the persistent store. Whenever queue gets free, it has going to be forwarding those messages to the again queue. So it may be a sending messages or receiving messages. By default, both it has going to be stores. Let's see how we can able to configure. Go to over there. Click on the store and forward agents. Click on new. Provide the and select the persistent store. Under that, it is going to be stored. See the agent type sending only, receiving only, and both by default. So click on next and select the target and click on finish button. In this way, you can able to configure the store and forward agents. And JMS bridge destinations generally. So these bridge destinations, so whenever you want to currently or till now, you are going to be distributing the messages within the JMS server only. But by using these JMS bridge destinations, we can able to we can able to change or we can able to you know exchange the messages or sending and receiving the messages between the two messaging products. Bridge destination is the source and target destination is the JMS messaging product. Whatever which we may have, this is what actually source, and we need to be sent to the target bridge destination by creating the bridge in between the two messaging products. So by default, which we cannot able to configure actually, just go to over there, click on the messaging and go to the bridges, expand the messages, click on the JMS bridge destination, click on new. All these are the source details you have to be provided, and again you have to be configure the destination also to send and receiving the messages in between the two messaging products. All these are the parameters: name, adapter JNDA name, adapter class path, connection URL, connection factor JNDA name, and definition JNDA name. All these are the mandatory parameters which you can able to provide about the JMS bridge destination details here. So in this way you can able to configure about the bridges. Bridges are going to be enabled by creating the bridge in between the two messaging products, enabling to exchanging the messages. That is about the JMS bridge destination. Let's we see what is the session pools and what is the reason to configuring the session pools. Session pools are going to be enables applications to process the messages concurrently. How we can able to configure? Click on the JMS server, click on the creator JMS server, click on the session pools, click on new, provide the name and as well as reason class name and click on OK. Now this is enabled application to process the messages concurrently. So this is about the session pools. Important interview question. What is the server affinity? Server affinity generally what it is going to be doing. So whenever the server one which is going to be creates the connection factory and send the messages. And same server generally which gets the generally client will raise the request, same server as using the existing connection only and processing. If that server is busy or unable to return the usable connection object to process the messages, and which will create the connection on any server in the cluster node, which is which is uh, which is enabled for only the distributed destinations, not normal queue and topic. This mechanism we can call it as server affinity. So this is about all the configurations. Let's we see in the real time what is the order of the JMS configurations actually. So very important entry question. So go to here. What are the JMS order of the JMS configurations in the real time? C. Create the persistent store if necessary and create the JMS server and target it to the above JVM as persistent store. Create the JMS module and target to the cluster and create the sub-deployment and target to the JMS server and create all the JMS server resources like connection factory, queue, topic, distributed queue and distributed topic. Attach the queue, topic and to the sub-deployment if required, and you can configure the store and forward agents if required. This is order of configuring the JMS services in the real time. So in this way, you can able to configure and JMS services. Then now you can able to monitor. Click on the JMS servers, go to the WebLogic server and click on monitoring. We can monitor all the services like paging store. Paging store generally which is enabled. So generally by default all the JMS server default non-persistent. All the messages which are going to be stored under the paging store. So generally paging store which is automatically cleans those or deletes those messages and improving the performance. Active connections, active transactions and active connections, connection session pool, active session pools and pooled connections. All these services which we can able to monitor at the runtime under the monitoring tab above the JMS server services. So this is about configuration about the JMS server and its advanced configurations. Understood right about the JMS? Hello? Right. So once we'll complete
Hello?
this one. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Right. We just move to that security part. Security generally which contains the two layers. One is you know protect the communication over the network. Then once the request reach to the server, otherwise WebLogic server, how you are going to be protecting that request, those WebLogic server resources. So that we'll able to see the first how we are going to be protecting the WebLogic server communication. So let's we see. So generally, so whenever you'll go to over there and you are accessing some application called www dot iccibank.application or www dot onlinesbi.com. See what is the guarantee this home page is coming from the SBI server only, right? There is no guarantee, right? So how the client has going to be trust which is coming from the server only. And so generally what needs to server needs to produce the digital certificates to the client which is certified by the some certificate authority companies, and then it has going to be trust, and as well as by providing the identity it has going to be trust by the client which produce the public key. In the sense it has going to be enables the communication in between the client and server by using the HTTPS. And next, whenever you are sending the information over the network, generally there are some middle hackers, they are going to be hack the data. How you are going to be protecting from them? So that is about the second purpose. These are the two purposes which configuring the SSL actually. That is possible by using the secure socket layer. So the first one, what is SSL? SSL is nothing but which provides the secure communication, by authenticating the server which verifying the, you know, verifying the digital certificates, which is certified by the some certificate authority companies, including the private key, sorry, including the public key. In the sense, security SSL, which provides the security communications, security connections between the client and server by authenticating the server's identity and encrypting the data security. So that is about how it is going to be producing the security. SSL is nothing but secure socket layer, which provides a secure connection. By that, it is going to be allowing applications connecting over the network by authenticating the public key. That is about SSL. So generally there are two purposes. SSL generally, which is going to be implements a transport SSL3 TSL, transport layer security specification. So that is about the SSL. You can able to access the SSL after you configuring that by using the SSL HTTPS production HTTPS protocol. So there are two purposes to configuring the SSL. The first one, a server needs to be authenticated to the client. Generally, there are two purposes actually. The purpose one, to establish identity and trust. Second one, to encrypt the data communication between the two processes over the network. There is the two purposes. Let's we see what is the purpose, how it is going to be established the trust and the identity. So assume like that whenever you want to hit the URL called www.ebay.com to buy something, otherwise any site. What is the guarantee that homepage is or that that homepage is actually connected to the eBay server? There is no guarantee. So generally, what it will do, EBA server, which needs to be produce the digital certificates to the client, and client verifies those certificates, including the private key encryption, and establish the communication. And those certificates generally, which is produced by the some certificate authority companies, generally it's much better, like Verisign or Entrust.com. So in this way, trust and identity enables. After that, it is going to be enable the HTTPS communication. Then second purpose generally, after establishing the trust and identity in between the client and server, client agrees to reveal the sensitive information like credit card information. So this information generally sends to the server over the network. In the middle actually, network hackers is going to be hacks. For that reason, so which we may have the a concept called RSA algorithm. What is RSA algorithm generally? Public key, private key. It is Ravish, Shamir, Edelman, who were first published about the RSA algorithm. There were the three authors. RSA generally, which produce the key pairs. One key is chosen as the public key, and other key is chosen as the private key, which is automatically becomes the private key. So any information generally which is encrypted with the public key can only decrypt by using the corresponding private key. So that is what actually encryption. Before you are sending any information over the network, so you have to be encrypt and send that over the network. And regarding the private key which is available by the server, which matches with the public key and private key, encrypts and sends to the specified person. What is public key and private key encryption generally? SSL provides both privacy and as well as security. And you can see here, whenever message wants to send, which is going to be encrypted with the public key and encrypted and sent to the server. Server which is going to be decrypts by using the public key and private key and send the message. In this way, it is going to be participate in the symmetric encryption. This is called public key private key encryption, otherwise symmetric encryption. What is symmetric and asymmetric encryption? Symmetric, asymmetric encryption to create a session in between the client and server and negotiate with the session key and establish the symmetric encryption. Does it require the shared secret key? In this way. How does SSL works generally? Whenever client raises any request, generally which is forwarded by using the HTTP to the WebLogic server, here it has going to be checks about that authentication, then pass to the request to the realm. Realm generally you will get later. I will tell you for time being. Realm is which provides the mechanism, for authenticating users and as well as security role, security policies for protecting the WebLogic server resources. Here it is going to be verifies and processing this request and generate the response. The generated response sent back to here. Here it is going to be checks once again for accepting or denying that request. And here it is going to be protecting all the WebLogic server resources and return to the client, and client will display the output. In this way, SSL works. Let's see the steps actually. Clients request the SSL connection, server presents the SSL certificate, and client verifies the server certificates. Client generates the session key by using the symmetric encryption, and finally what will happen? Client and server switch to the symmetric encryption, enables the HTTPS communication. This is about the HTTP, how the security communication established in between the client and server. Let's we see what are the terminology about the security. What is trust and what is identity? Identity is nothing but what information about the server. If you just go to over there here, see this is what actually HTTPS. The moment you click on here, identity of the State Bank of India, which is coming from the Mumbai, Maharashtra, which has been verified by the VeriSign. All the identity information about the server. Similarly, like that here also, identity is nothing but it contains the digital certificate which contain all the information about the server, like name of the server, coming from the which state, all the information about the server. That provided information by the server, this identity information to trust by the client. So those certificates which needs to be certified by the some certificate authority companies, that is called trust. Trust on the identity which produces by configuring the digital certificates. So what is a digital certificate generally? It is just like an ID card which contains the information of the server, like name of the server and organization name, location. Generally that is about the digital certificate. What is certificate signing request? Once you generate the digital certificate, we need to be request for certifying the certificates about the server, including the public key, and digitally signed by the some certificate authority company. That process we can call it as certificate signing request. And what is CA generally? Certificate authority. If a client wants to going to be a trust about the certificates which is produced by the server, those certificates must be validated and certified by the some certificate authority companies. That is called certificate authority. And let's we see how we can able to configure and manage the certificates by using the key tool. We can able to configure and manage the certificates. Let's we see what are the types of SSLs which are we have here. Self-signed SSL. What is the self-signed SSL? Both issued to issued by both are the same person. We can call it as a self-signed. In the sense, creating the certificates you only, certifying the certificates by you only. That is called self-signed SSL. And what is one-way SSL and two-way SSL? One-way SSL means server is required to present a certificates to the client, but client is not required to present a certificates to the server. Only client verifies. That is called one-way SSL. Two-way SSL means server needs to be produced the certificates to the client. Client needs to be produced the certificates to the server. In both ways, it has going to be verifies and establish the security communication. That is called two-way SSL. How we are going to be configuring the one-way, two-way, and as well as self-signed SSL. Let's we see. This is what key tool which is to be configure the certificates. These are all the some example how we are going to be configuring the digital certificates and how we are going to be creating the certificate signing request, then now sending to that VeriSign, and as well as importing those certificates and verifying the certificates validity, and configuring in the WebLogic console. Let's see all those process. I just go to over there. For configuring the digital certificate, I'm just copying. Hi Vijay. Two-way certificate means generally clients needs to be produced. Client means here this is client. Client also produce the certificates to the server. Server also produce the certificates to the client. Client verifies and server verifies and establish the communication. That is what two-way SSL. Let's we see go to here how to configure that. I'm just going the following path: Home, Linux, Oracle, JDK, HL Home. JDK bin. Under this path, which is available, the key tool. So key tool gen key pair alias wlsdemo.com and key store where I need to be store the key store. That is my key store name. JKS means Java key store. Store path is just like username change me. Key path is just like password change me. See all these details about the server which is produced by the company actually in the real time. First name WLS demo, WLS demo. So city, state and country, all the details which is okay, press Y. So which is create the .jks file. Go to this, see case.jks file which is created. So next what I need to do, I need to be create the certificate signing request. You are going to be configuring the certificates actually. Go to here, certificate then keypad. So key tool, certificate file, home Linux Oracle, HCL home. So under that path send to Verizon, it needs to be stored under this alias wlsdemo.com and key store home Linux Oracle, HCL home and key store name case.jk. Store path is just like change me, key path is just like password change me, which is created. Go to that path, VH send it to Verizon. See, which is encrypted actually. You just copy this one, go to the www.verizon.com and see here what we can able to see free trial SSL configuration. So click on continue. You have to be produce that all the value, all the details actually. Some all the information, first name, last name, job title and fax. Generally you need to be provide the company details, all those here. Click on continue. See, you have to be paste that certificate signing request whatever you're generated and click on continue. So which is going to be they are going to be response within a 24 hours based on the SLA type. So they can able to produce or they can able to service level agreement. They can able to import the following certificates actually. What are those? These are the steps actually one by one. So these are the certificates generally they are going to be generate and sent to us. Server, root, intermediate and signed including the private key. All those certificates. Example how it looks like. Go to here, the real-time certificates. See it would be like that. So click on install those certificates. You just import all these certificates to the WebLogic server by using the import command. So then after that what I need to do, shift to the WebLogic server. I can able to configure the SSL. First enable the SSL listen port, expand the environment node. So click on the servers, click on the admin server, uh, enable the SSL listen port. I am changing this 8002. See currently I am using 8002 and click on save button and click on key store. I don't have any certificates currently. That is the reason I'm selecting the demo identity, demo trust. But in real time, we need to choose the custom identity, custom trust. Go to here, all these identity and trust, which we can able to store. We'll see the next that part. Change me, click on save button. Whatever the private key areas you will get, click on this cell. You just copy here, you just paste here. Demo identity. I'm using the demo certificates. That's the reason which I get the demo identity. So click on save, click on logout, and you can log in as HTTPS. HTTPS. I'm testing localhost colon 8002 slash console. Rebounds the server. I need to start the server again. Right, which comes into the running mode. Go to here, HTTPS. Now you can able to access localhost colon 8002 slash console. See, understand the risk, add exception, get certificate, confirm security. See, you'll be able to get the HTTPS. You can able to access. So this is how you are going to be, creating the certificates and as well as accessing by using the demo identity, demo trust. But custom identity, custom trust, we are only generating the certificates and we are only certifying the certificates. That we'll able to see cp build.xml file /home /linux rackle. I'm just copying the build.xml file which contains. So we are doing, I am generating the certificates, I am only certifying and I am generating that one. Set domain name address. I just set the class path and go to the security. PWD ls here you have the build.xml file. VA space, there is no certificates here. After generating this one, all whatever I enter just now manually, that is I am just keeping under the build.xml file to automate this. Home Linux Oracle HCL home, which is the same like actually. You have to change only this one. Whatever I typed actually while generating the digital certificate, everything I enter here. Key pass, store pass. All the passwords which I entered here. Enter, click on save button. What I need to do, and space -f build.xml file. It is going to be executing and generating the certificates. See here, cert request, trust.jks, identity.jks. I'm just copying this one. Go to the WebLogic console, expand the environment node, click on the servers, and click on the admin server. Enable the SSL listen port. I'm just changing this listen port 8005. Click on save button. Click on key store. Instead of taking the demo identity, demo trust, this time we'll able to take custom identity, custom trust. Click on save button. See custom identity key store. Identity. So which is available under this path, right? Go to here. PWD. Go to that path. Identity.jks. Right. Type jks and password, store pass, confirm, store pass, and generally trust under this path. Like that you can import which is sending by the third party companies. Type JKS store pass, click on save button. Click on save button. Next click on the SSL. We need to be provide the private key alias my private key name, and password username key pass, and password key pass, and click on save button, and click on logout and test it. Understand the risk, add exception, get certificate, confirm you're able to access see here. This is how you're going to be configuring the one-way SSL. This is about one-way SSL configuration. For two-way SSL, expand the environment node, click on the servers, click on admin server, click on SSL, go to the advanced, see two-way certificates behavior actually. By default, client's certificate not requested. You can select client certificate request and enforced, and click on save button, and you can able to configure the two-way SSL. You already completed the configuration of the two-way SSL. In this way, you can able to configure the SSL to protect the WebLogic server communications actually. This is about the, so one part we have completed SSL to protecting the communication for the network. Tomorrow we'll see the security framework. Understood? I'm stopping here today. Tomorrow we will see security framework, and after completing that node manager we'll able to see. Okay? Hello?
Oh, okay, sir.
Alright. So it may be a 10 to 15 minutes. It will get delayed tomorrow also. Okay? 6:45
Okay.
around like that we'll able to log in. Okay?
Okay.
Alright? Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Bye. We'll meet tomorrow.
Okay.